Great to see you here again. My name is Luc de Koster, founder of the Koster Academy, and in this video I will talk about personality styles and communication. Personality styles and communications are very important because different people have different styles and they need to be approached in a different way in order to obtain effective and efficient communications. But before we continue, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. So let's have a look at people and their personalities. There are different types of personalities. There are a lot of possibilities, a lot of combinations. And it's very important to understand what is the preferred way of the people you're dealing with, how they react, what do they like, what subjects do they like, how you have to address them. Some people like it that you go directly to them, that you approach them directly. Other people you have to approach in a completely different way. You have to bring the subject to them in a very, let's say, not in a direct way. Everything you have to understand how to deal with people. A very important thing is also very important that you have to use terminology that the people understand. So it will have a similar effect, and it also creates a better relationship. And when we talk about relationship, we also refer to what we call emotional intelligence. And it's also called a rapport. It's a way to create, let's say, an understanding, a trust between the different people you're communicating with. As a project manager, you have to master these different communication techniques, understand how to transmit messages to your peers, the team members, customers, and stakeholders. The more techniques you know, the better you understand the people, the better you can communicate with them. And during my PM training, we had courses related to this subject, and I must say that I could use those courses immediately because it will help you improve the way you deal with the people. Now, the first thing to have a look at is what we call the Briggs temperament, and we already spoke about it. It's part of this video again. We talk about extroversion and introversion, E and I. Then we have sensate and intuitive. We have an S and N. We talk about thinking and feeling. And also we talk about judging and perceiving. When we look at extroversion and introversion, the extrovert obtains energy from the outside and tends to be socially oriented. The introvert obtains energy from inside and tends to be withdrawn. So you have to understand what type of people you are dealing with. Sensate and intuitive. Sensate are typically experiential based, and they tend towards practicality. Intuitive, they look toward the future, and they favor typically hunches and possibilities. Then we have thinking and feeling. The thinker emphasizes on logic and stresses objectivity, while the feeling person values intimacy and stresses on relationships. The last element is judging and perceiving. Judging, the people emphasize on finality. They tend to be decisive. The perceiving people look for options, and the decisions they need, before making a decision, they need complete information. Understanding these elements, understanding the Briggs temperaments of the people you are dealing with, will help you to communicate in a better way. When we look at the 4 major temperaments of the BMTI, we look at the different elements. First of all, we have the SP, stress on action with minimum analysis. The communication style is about spontaneous communications, and they are open to different perspectives, and basically they are adaptable. We also have S and J, helpful, caretaking, consultative, but they communicate in a formalized, structured way. They have typically a black and white view, and they are very precise. The NT, preferences, power-oriented, they look for mastery, and they are assertive. As a communication style, they emphasize on the need for control or predictability, and they seek being objective, in some cases even impersonal. And F, they talk about self-actualization and the importance of goals. They typically use informal communications, and they prefer qualitative over quantitative data. So these are the 4 major temperaments. There are other temperaments that we still can identify, but it's not part of this course. If you would follow a BMTI training, you would be using all that information, and you would learn what is your own temperament. And there, of course, are sub-temperaments that can have some small differences. Understanding that is very important for you. Another popular model is the Berkman Model. Here we have different styles, and we look also at the characteristics and the communication style. We have the expeditor, is a person who is typically task-oriented and assertive. They communicate to the people and not with the people. We have the communicator, typically people-oriented, assertive, and he really communicates with people. There is the administrator. They are task-oriented and low-key. They communicate in a formal way and only when it is necessary, when they must communicate. Otherwise, they don't communicate. The last element, the last behavior style in the Berkman model are what we call the planners. They are people-oriented and low-key. They communicate on a personal level and spontaneously. So these are the elements of the Berkman model. If you're using, you can of course use all these different elements together, but understand that each of them have their values and will help you understand the people better. Then we have the color code by Hartman. We have the different element. Then we have the color code by Taylor Hartman. The first are the red people, the red category. They're power seekers. They want to maintain control, and they have a direct and logically oriented communication style. The blue people, they seek intimacy. They are reflective, and their communication style is informal and empathic. White personality, they seek peace and they avoid confrontation. They are communicating in a formal way, but indirect. The last color category are the yellow people. They seek for excitement, they seek for attention, action, and praise. They communicate in an informal way. They are spontaneous and they are expressive. The next category, the next model, is about multiple intelligences. So there are different types of intelligence that we can identify, and that's what this is about. Linguistic intelligence means that they can be expressive through words. They talk about arguing, they instruct. These are the people related or that have a linguistic intelligence. Spatial intelligence are people who share their intelligence through images. They create and transform things. We have musical intelligence. People express themselves through sounds, and they also are involved in producing melodies. Then is the bodily kinesthetic intelligence. These are people who show the intelligence through physical actions and body movement. Logical mathematical intelligence, typically using logic and the use of numbers. I love numbers. I love to do the logical things. So if you've seen that, I like some mathematics. Some people don't like it, but I like it. I like formulas and I know how to find formulas. Now, interpersonal intelligence is about dealing with other people. There are actions like working with people or motivating people. And the last one of the multiple intelligence is the intrapersonal intelligence. Here they use the understanding of oneself, they understand themselves, and they have actions like self-reflection. So these are the multiple intelligence that exist. And let's have a look at the next one, which is the Enneagram Sufi teaching. We have the perfectionist here. They are prescriptive and in a normative focus. We have the giver. They pursue approval and affection of others. We have the performer. They are competitors and achievers. We have the tragic romantic. They are typically idealists and they are dominated by emotions. There is the observer. They want space from others. They want objectivity and independence. They look from their side a little bit away from the others. The devil's advocate, they identify with the underdog. They are suspicious. And we've talked about the devil's advocate when we were looking at the stakeholders too, where in PMI, the devil's advocate is not really a good trend, a good characteristic, and it should be avoided. Now, in some cases, it can be good, but basically underdogs and suspicious thinking. We have the epicure. They typically the jack of all trades and specialist of none. They can do a lot of things, but they're not specialized in one subject. We have the boss. Theirs are the protectors. They take charge, and they're typically motivated by power and control. And the last one is the mediator. They seek agreement with all the people, and they avoid confrontation. The next is about Herman brain dominance, and we have the different elements that we have here. We have the analyzer, we call it also the A quadrant. It's divided in 4 quadrants. The analyzers are logical and analytical, and they communicate in a formal, unemotional way, and they stress qualification. We have the organizers. They are in the B quadrant. They prefer structure and organization. They are formal. They have a structure and they are detailed. There is the personalizer in the C quadrant, likes to interact with people, has informal communication style, interpersonal style, and a good listener. And the last one is the visualizer, the D quadrant, the big pictures. They have different ideas. They're informal and they're typically communicating visually. So these are the main characteristics. And of course, we can have combinations of those. It's a little bit comparable with the DISC model, where we also have those 4 main preferences and then different subcategories. Now we have the organizational engineering types or evaluation of people. We have the reactive simulator, also abbreviated by RS. They act immediately, they value independence, and they are informal and direct. We have the logical processor, LP, logical and methodical. They seek details and precisions. They are formal, concentrate on a narrow topic, and they are an impatient listener. We have the hypothetical analyzer, HA. They look at options before they do actions. They are analytical and definitive. Their communication is formal with excellent listening skills. Then we have the relational innovator, RI. They explore all the options. They are theoretical and innovative. They have an informal communication style. They communicate and they summarize, and they communicate typically on an abstract level. So these are different models that we have, but there are other models that exist. Every time there are models also using kind of color coding. when you can do personality tests. A lot of people are developing those, and a lot of companies are providing them. We talked about the DISC model. We looked there at the different possibilities. We've spoken about that in a previous video. There are different applications of the DISC model, and some companies are in fact offering that to help people to understand who they are, the people they are working with, and so on. So it's always very interesting to understand what's happening. Now, like I said, communication is very important for the project manager. Effective communication is only possible when we understand the people we are communicating with. We have to know who they are, what they like, and then we can, in fact, communicate with them, create rapport, and basically improve project success. The identification of the communication process, preferences of the people will help you to fine-tune the communication. You try to understand, you try to read the body language, you try to understand what profile they are, and using that information that will help you to become a better communicator. So that was it for this video. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.